So, in this subject of food science, today let us think about the module and look into the module which deals with the milling of wheat. We have seen how are the different cereals that are there, what are the different millets that are there, the different processing methods and different products which each one have rendered, and therefore, a variety of menus which can be prepared from each of these. So, today in this module of milling of wheat, we will study exactly what is the structure of the wheat grain and what is the characteristics of the wheat and how it can be processed and what are the different end products of processing, and as a result of which how the nutritive value varies for each product, and because the texture is different for each, how it can be used for different type of foods to be prepared, right from desserts to main course and other foods which are frequently used by the teenagers and children also. So, the main objectives of today's module will be, first is to study the structure and processing of wheat, to understand the different types and application of wheat flour. Let us look at the structure of the wheat grain. The endosperm is the potential white flour within the center of the wheat grain. When milled, the endosperm fractures along with the cell walls and separates from the bran layers. The ease of separating the endosperm from the bran layers is determined by the wheat's characteristics. Hard wheats used for bread making will allow easy separation, while the endosperm of soft wheats used for biscuit flours does not separate as cleanly from the bran layers. The bran layers of the wheat grain consist of 4 separate layers: the pericarp, the testa, nucella layers and aleuron layers cells. Nutritionally, bran is rich in protein and is used in the production of brown and whole meal flours. Wheat germ contains elements of the young wheat plant rich in certain vitamins, protein and oil. It is often used in health foods for the fortification of bread and whole meal flour. Process of roller milling. Prior to milling cereal kernels, they are cleaned of field debris and other contaminant that may be introduced during harvesting and transporting. The object of milling is to separate the endosperm from the bran and germ, with further processing of the endosperm into grits, meal or flour, depending on the extent of the milling. Reasons for removing the bran and germ are to improve the functional properties of the endosperm in manufactured products and to therefore increase their shelf life. The process of milling of wheat. The most commonly milled grain is wheat, which is usually dry milled. Dry milling cereals consists of tempering and conditionally the kernels are then roller milling them. Tempering involves the addition of water to toughen the bran and soften the endosperm, making for easier separation. The tempered wheat is then put through rollers to remove the bran and germs and reduce starchy endosperm into smaller particles. During roller milling, kernels are put through a series of rollers that progressively move closer together. The first rollers open the kernel, breaking the bran and freeing the germ. The next roller crushes the endosperm and flattens the germ. The bran and germ are removed by air currents and sieves under the rollers. The endosperm is further pulverized by roller set close enough to grind it into fine particles, with continued sifting to remove small pieces of bran and germ. With further milling, even smaller particles are produced and the flour becomes lighter in color and lower in vitamins and minerals content. Milling can be used to produce several different types of flours. Refined white wheat flours from any of the wheat varieties are graded based on the streams of milling included in the final flour product. The highest grade of flour is short patent, which content refined flour from approximately 50% of the stream of endosperm, especially the middle portion of endosperm, and in high in starch and low in protein. The medium patent flour includes about 90% of the streams and is higher in protein and lower in starch than short patent flour. Long patent flour contains nearly all the flour streams and is highest in protein and lowest in starch. Freshly milled white flours have a creamy and yellow color due to the carotenoid pigments and have better baking qualities when aged and kept for months. Aging or maturing can be done simply by storing. The oxidation occurs. During storage, oxidation occurs and flour becomes lighter in color due to the oxidation of carotenoid, resulting in flour which is lighter in color. Oxidation also allows for more bonds when glucose is formed, which makes better baking flour. This process is usually accelerated with oxidizing agent such as benzoyl peroxide and chlorine. These flours must be labeled bleached. Both bleached and unbleached flour are available in the retail market. When we look for aesthetic quality, we will see that any food which looks very good, very clean or very aesthetically appealing, like white flour. If you see maida, it is a white refined flour when compared to atta. Now, atta is a whole grain flour which has the bran or the fiber also included in it, and it has a little yellowish or brownish color. So, because of the color, sometimes people choose maida, but the thing is maida is a less nutritive value without the fiber and you know fiber also contains phytochemicals, vitamins, minerals and essential amino acids. High protein content is also there. So, when you choose something just for the color or the look, you must first go for nutritive value, not for the way the food looks. So, in that context, the unbleached flour, which is maybe off white or even yellowish, the color is due to the carotenoid pigment which is present, and the vitamin A. Carotenoid is vitamin A. So, therefore, the unbleached flour has definitely a higher nutritive value when compared to the bleached flour or the maida or the refined flour. Next, we will see the forms of wheat flour. Wheat is processed to different degrees to make various food products. A wheat berry is raw, unprocessed wheat kernel containing the bran, germ and endosperm. These kernels double in volume when cooked in water and have a nutty taste with a chewy but tender texture. The cracked wheat is created when raw unprocessed wheat berries are crushed and cut into smaller pieces. Cracked wheat is used in the production of cereals and can be used in casseroles, salads, stuffings and other meat extender products. Bulgur is a cracked wheat product from steamed and dried or roasted wheat berries. It has a nutty flavor. Bulgur is used in pilaf dishes and in tabbouleh, which is a popular salad dish in the Middle East. Farina is coarsely ground wheat as a wheat endosperm, and it is used as a breakfast cereal and as a baby food cereal. Cream of wheat is a popular commercial farina product. Couscous is a product produced by rolling and shaping moistened semolina into small granules, which is then dried. Couscous was traditionally made from the hard part of the kernel that resisted grinding when primitive grinding stones were used. Couscous is a staple food in many parts of northern Africa, especially north of Sahara. Today, other grains also made into a couscous product, such as coarsely ground barley and rice. Let us see the different foods or practical applications wheat flour has in the food industry. Wheat starch is produced from the carbohydrates in wheat endosperm. It does not have the thickening power of cornstarch. The germ component of wheat appears as tiny crumb-like grains. Wheat germ has a nutty taste and is used in hot cereals and breads. It can be sprinkled over yogurt and salads. Wheat bran can be used in baking as an ingredient in meatloaf, stirred into hot cereals. Bran from all cereals can be used as fiber supplement. Now, let us see what are the different types of wheat flour. We have whole wheat flour, also known as Graham flour, or entire wheat flour, contains the bran, germ and endosperm of wheat berries and may be ground to varying degree of fineness. Compared to white flour, whole wheat flour has a shorter shelf life because the fat in the germ will oxidize and cause rancidity. It also is high in fiber due to the bran component. It produces baked products that have a denser texture and a lower volume due to the bran and germs interference with gluten development. Enriched flour. This is a white flour produced from just the endosperm with the B vitamins and like thiamine, riboflavin, niacin and folic acid, and the mineral iron added based on the federal standards. All purpose flour. This white flour produced from a blend of wheat varieties. It is used to make quick breads. It contains enough protein to make homemade yeast breads and some cakes, but it has too much protein for delicate cakes. It is the most common type of flour sold in the retail market. The amount of protein in all purpose flours varies depending on the mill, the brand and the region where it is marked. Self-rising flour is all purpose flour to which a leavening agent and salt have been added. The leavening agent is baking powder in the form of monocalcium phosphate and acid salt combined with sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda. 1 cup of self-rising flour usually contains 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and half a teaspoon of baking soda. Bread flour is long patent flour produced from a blend of hard wheat varieties. It contains more protein than all purpose flour. The higher protein content results in a higher loaf volume. Bread flour produces excellent yeast breads and is used by commercial bakers. Gluten flour or high gluten flour is specially wheat flour produced by adding vital wheat gluten, which is dried gluten, to increase the amount of protein to approximately 41%. This flour produces a chewy and tough bread product that is also palatable. Bagels often contain high gluten flour to give them chewy texture. By raising the protein content, gluten flour provides a good texture to baked product and improves their nutritional value. Cake flour is short patent flour, that is finely milled from soft wheat varieties. It is a high starch, low protein flour. This flour will produce delicate, fine texture cakes. Cake flour is usually bleached with chlorine to inhibit gluten development and to allow starch to absorb water. Desirable characteristics when making cakes. The chloride treatment also produces flour with a very white color. Pastry flour is soft wheat flour, but it includes medium patent in addition to short patent flour. It contains approximately 9% protein. Pastry flour is used by commercial bakers to produce tender pastry products. Instantized flour is also known as instant blending or quick mixing flour. It is produced by passing all-purpose flour through moist air to form agglomerates that are dried to produce small sand-like granules. This type of flour flows easily without a lot of dust, water, and does not require sifting. Instantized flour is useful for thickening gravies and sauces. Having learned about the different products that we can obtain as a result of processing flour through the roller milling process, we can choose what different kinds of flour we want to use for the different recipes we use in our regular dietaries, and depending on the dish that you are going to make, you can choose the flour. So, why is the quality of flour so important? For example, if you want to make a very chewy, high texture product like a bread, which is a chewy, not a soft bread, you need to look at the quality of the flour. So, quality means not white or brown, but the protein content, and if it is going to be a refined flour or a whole wheat flour. So, what you choose? You will have to choose a whole wheat flour, because where you have the bran, more amount of protein and more amount of gluten and gliadin, both combine together to give you the protein gluten, and it is this gluten which forms the basic body for the bread product. So, if you want such a thick and chewy bread, tough bread, you choose a flour with more amount of gluten or protein and bran. But if you want to make a very fine, light, fluffy sponge cake, then what flour do you choose? Yes, you will choose a refined white flour, preferably maida, because here you are not looking for the nutritive value, but you are looking for the quality of the end product, that is a light fluffy cake, maybe a tea cake or a sponge cake. So, then you will use only maida with other required ingredients, biological leavening agent or a chemical leavening agent, to leaven the cake and make a good end product. So, same way, if you look for making something in the home, if you want to make nutritious puris, what flour would you use? If you see the commercial establishments, they will use, yes, maida, but you being a student of nutrition, you should use something nutritious, at the same time tasty, and which looks good. So, you can probably use half maida and half wheat flour or atta, or even entire atta flour alone to make nutritious puris, which are equally tasty, in fact better than the maida flour and more in wholeness and nutritive value. So, in this way you have to choose what product of wheat you are going to use for the particular dish that you are looking to make, and in making the right choice, you will have the maximum ingredients and a good, happy, healthy life as well.